Imagine if you could reach out to thousands of people in your target audience, generate leads, have conversations with them, and all of this without any manual effort whatsoever. And that's what we're going to discuss in this video. Hey everyone, this is Viren and welcome back to my YouTube channel. In this video, we're going to talk about LinkedIn ads and specifically conversation ads. We will cover what they are, how do you go about setting them up, we'll go into a step-by-step tutorial, and in the end of the video, we'll also talk about what are the things you could do to get the max out of your conversation ads. So let's get started. I'm going to quickly show you what these ads look like. So in my profile, I'm going to go into the messaging tab. The first example here is a conversation ad where somebody has sent me a message and there are multiple options for me to choose from. And whichever option I select, I'm going to go into the next message that the person has set up. Now, this is different from a regular message ad. This is one example of a message ad. There is only one call to action. And when I click on that, the lead generation form opens up and I could fill this and submit. This is also different from an in-mail ad. So this is an example of an in-mail ad. And here somebody is paying LinkedIn just to send message specifically to certain people, right? So this was specifically targeted to me and this is not running at scale. I could respond to it with these auto suggestions or could type and respond to this message. But in-mails cannot be run at scale. These are specifically chosen people that you want to send messages to. Message ads could be run at scale, but here you have only one call to action, which when clicked, the user can fill a form. And finally, coming back to conversation ads, where there are multiple CTAs that you define, a user could click in any one of them and have a conversation with a chatbot that you have created. So in this particular ad, let's say if I clicked on yes, show me, there's a second message that the person has set up and it sends that message to me. If I clicked on maybe later, some other message was sent out to me. So you can set this up for yourself and this feels like a conversation more than anything else. What are the advantages here? Number one, you can use multiple CTAs. Now, because of these multiple call to actions, there's a psychological difference at play here. When there are more than one option shown to a user, the user feels more empowered, more in control of making their own decisions and choices here, right? So the chances of me responding to this particular ad becomes better. And of course, because the way to respond is just clicking on one of these two CTAs, it makes me feel more comfortable as a user to respond. Another advantage of this kind of an ad, which is similar to your messaging ads or in-mail ads, is that you don't need to have a graphic. So if you don't have a designer and you want to set up these kind of ads, you could go ahead and do that right away. In fact, if you're a startup and you don't have your website in place as well, you could still go ahead and run these kind of ads because you don't need to have a website. You could just have a conversation with people, open up a lead generation form on your CTAs and run this absolutely without a website. And the final advantage of this kind of ad, and the most important one, is that this is very bottom of funnel friendly ad, which means that if you're looking to generate leads and directly hit the bottom of the funnel with your ads, this is the perfect kind of ad for you. And I would go to the extent of saying that this is one of the most powerful ads that LinkedIn has ever created. So what are we waiting for? Let's go ahead and show you step by step how to create a conversation ad for yourself. And before we start that, could you please go ahead and hit the subscribe button if you're looking for more such videos that will help your business grow. And if you're not willing to do that, you could at least hit the like button and leave a comment on the video because that really helps creators like us grow and provide these kind of content for you for free. And now on to showing you how to create these ads for yourself. Let's go into the advertise tab on LinkedIn. You can go ahead and use whichever ad account you use. And if you don't have one, it's a simple form to create an ad account for yourself. Once you're here, we'll go ahead and create a campaign. We'll give this campaign a name. The objective is lead generation because we're trying to hit the bottom of the funnel. I'm not going to use budget optimization here because largely what it does is that if you have multiple ads within a group, the internal algorithm will automatically optimize and spend most of your money in the best performing campaign. But since we're just creating one campaign at the moment, we don't need this. You can select a run date. I'm going to select it from today and run continuously. Let's click on next. We can now go ahead and start setting up the campaign. So there is a campaign name. We can now start setting up our target audience. So the last ad I ran had India selected as the location, which is what LinkedIn has pre-selected for me. But we could change it to, let's say, United States. From here on, you can go ahead and narrow your audience further. I'm not going to cover things like lookalike, predictive, retargeting, third-party, list uploads in this particular video, since the scope is to show you how to create conversation ads. But go ahead and subscribe to the channel, because there are a lot of other videos coming up where I'll show you how to use these options as well. But for now, let's keep it simple, and we're going to simply add some audience attributes. So I've gone ahead and selected co-founder, CEO, founder, these kind of job roles, which are typically my target audiences. I am not going to select enable audience expansion because I like to be in complete control of who I'm targeting. And now in the ad format, we're going to go ahead and select conversation. We do not need to set up URL tracking, and this is optional, but typically when you have links, you want the user to click on it and go to your website. You use these tracking parameters so that you can track the user from LinkedIn all the way to your platform. We don't need this at the moment. Placement is going to be LinkedIn, and you cannot select the audience network because these are ads that are going to show in the messaging tab inside LinkedIn, and audience network cannot support for that. You can set a daily budget. I'm going to keep this to be around $50. Run the campaign continuously from today. You can choose between maximum delivery or manual bidding strategy. Again, I like manual bidding because I have complete control over how much I want to pay. So for this particular ad, for example, I can reduce this to 30 cents, run this for a little while and see if this works. Generally, sometimes I would also like to switch to maximum delivery if I'm looking for more leads faster and I do not have time to spend on manual bidding. So once we're done with this, we're going to click on next, save this. And now we're at the final step, which is the ad creation. So let's go ahead and create a new ad. Give your ad a name. The next step is to select a sender. So by default, my profile is selected, but you could add any other person as a sender, get them to approve this request. And once they do that, you could start using their profile to send message. A hack that a lot of businesses use is that they would select an influencer in their industry and pay the influencer to use their account to send these messages to people, because the open rate tends to become better. If you send it with the name of someone, the open rate tends to get better if you send the message from someone's profile who is an influencer in your industry. But I'm going to continue with just my name. Next, let's add a subject line for the message that we want to send. Now, uploading the banner creative is an optional step. And then we have a custom footer in terms of conditions if you want to do that kind of thing. You can connect a lead generation form if you want to this ad, if the purpose is to generate leads from this conversation. I'm going to go ahead and create a lead generation form. Give this form a name, offer headline, offer details, add a privacy policy URL. If there's a text, you could do that as well. Now we'll go ahead and select the details from a user's profile that we want to collect on the form. You could select from a lot of these options which get pre-selected when the form is opened, or you could also add your custom questions. My suggestions would be to make do with as much as you can from this particular list so that the process of filling the form is extremely easy for a user. So I've gone ahead and selected a few options for the user to fill from. And the next step is to fill a confirmation message. You could also add a landing page URL. This website doesn't exist, but I'll just use it as a placeholder. So Basically, when people have submitted the form, they will see a message like this with a call to action to visit the website. So you could use that as well. Now back to our ad creation process, and we could select this lead generation form from here. We'll go into the next step. And this is the final step where we're going to set up the conversation. You could see what the preview looks like on the desktop. There is also a flow chart here that you could see to know exactly how this conversation is flowing. So there is a message we sent out, then there are these options. If I click on yes, please, yes, I can refer someone, then this is the next message. If I say, tell me more about the company, this is the message. Now, it's a very time consuming process to start from blank and create this flowchart for yourself. But if that's something you want to do, you could go ahead and do that. But for the purposes of this particular video, I'm going to select one of these templates. So I'm going to use the Drive trials and demos, and I have a flowchart which is ready here for me to use. We'll go into view preview. Let's click on next to start optimizing this. So this is what the first message looks like. I am going to just remove and edit this. You could add these custom fields and personalize the message for whoever is on the receiving end. So I could add their first name. I could add the person's company name here as well. There we are. So I have something like this. Now I could add a CTA, which says something like schedule free call. And this is where the power of conversation ads lie. For every CTA, I could open the lead generation form that we selected while starting this entire process, or we could go to another message, or I could send the user to a website. So for this particular CTA, I'm going to go ahead and let the user fill my lead generation form. But then I could have another CTA, which is tell me more. And in this case, I want to take the user to another message. The next message could have their own CTAs, and you can again decide how you want to handle these call to actions by sending the user to your form, to the next message, or to the website. Ultimately, you could use this flowchart to see how this entire conversation is going to look like. So if I click on create right now, I'm pretty sure there'd be a bunch of errors here. So you could see that there are errors because some of the call to actions in this particular conversation flowchart has destination URLs needed because the action is send the user to a website. So let me fill this with something temporary for now. And now that we're done with this, I'm going to go ahead and click on create. Our ad is ready. If I click on this particular button and send a test message to myself. So when I come back to my messages tab, I can see this test message, the subject line which we had used. If the user clicks on this, there's going to be this message. Clicking on the schedule free call will open the lead generation form that we had. And if the user clicked on tell me more, they would see the next set of messages that were there. So we could now go back to the ad manager and from here click on next to make the ad live. This is the final step where you get to review the ad. And once you're done with the review, you could send it to LinkedIn for approval and then your ad would start running. That's it. The ads are now in review. If we go into the view campaign, we can see this campaign and all the data points are here as well. So you would be able to see the number of leads that you've generated. If you click on view summary, you'll be able to see the leads that have come through, the amount you've spent, cost per result, the number of times, the number of messages that have been sent, the open rates, the number of clicks that these messages have gotten, button clicks. If you've included banners or links to your ad, then you'd be able to see the banner clicks and the link clicks as well, open rate. So there are these bunch of data points that you could go ahead and see and analyze for yourself for your ad. And now finally, like I promised in the beginning of the video, I'm going to share some tips and tricks that you could use to get the max out of these conversation ads. So I've gone back to the ad builder to show you the tips and tricks. Number one is to pick the right sender. it would make a lot of sense to have a personal profile here instead of using a business logo or a business name, because you want this to feel like a personal message for the user, as if they're conversing with a person and not a business. Like I already said before, you could hire an influencer and use their account and get it approved to also send messages from their name, and in turn have a better open rate for your messages. The next tip would be to personalize these messages as much as possible. There are these fields that LinkedIn provides us to use in our message, and we should use them to personalize this as much as possible. The third tip would be to have a conversational tone. You want the user to feel like they're having a chat with you and not a bot, right? So keep this as much as possible like a message that you would actually type and send someone. When it comes to these call to actions, at every step, LinkedIn provides you up to 5, right? But it would be best to use anywhere between 2 to 3 call to actions per message, because you don't want the user to get confused or spend a lot of time just reading through the options available and then making a decision. As we know, there is something called as decision paralysis, and if there are a lot of options available, the user might get confused and drop off. The next tip is something that a lot of people use, and there have been a number of case studies published for this, where people generally tend to pay users to engage with them over these conversation ads. So, for example, for booking these free demos for myself, I might incentivize the user by saying that you would get a $50 gift certificate to Amazon if you participated in this, right? And that would encourage the participant to go through this message in detail and actually schedule a free call, because they've now been incentivized. And that way, if you're sure you're reaching out to the right target audience, you would be able to generate a lot more number of leads. But here, you need to plan for the money grabbers. You need to plan for people who might abuse this to just take out a gift certificate from you. So ensure that the form that you create is taking enough information for you to know who the right person is to participate in your call. The another thing you can do is ensure that while you're selecting the target audience, you've gone really detailed and you've selected the right target audience. Few other tips are that in these messages, always explain the benefits that the user gets by interacting with you or your business, and add proof for that. You could add case studies. In my example, I would generally add the work that I've done with other companies and the benefits that they've seen out of having me as their consultant. So I would always add those kind of things, social proofing to the message. But after all of this, you need to ensure that the length of these messages do not extend about 500 characters. Because if this becomes too long, a user would not end up reading all of this, right? So keep it short, keep it to the point, and that really helps users read and go through all the messages that you've chalked out for them in this conversation flow. And last, sometimes adding links to these messages. So I could select something and add a link to this. When you do something like this, the click-throughs on your ad tends to increase more, because if I'm actually reading, instead of clicking on the call to action in the end, I might just click on the link that is there somewhere in the middle of the message, right? So that is the final tip for you. That's about it for this video. I hope this was helpful for you. We went through what conversation ads are, how are they different from message or in-mail ads. We also saw the step-by-step demo of how to create one for yourself. And we also covered all the tips and tricks to get the most out of your conversation ads. Please do hit the subscribe button for more such videos. And if this was helpful for you, a like and a comment would go a long way in helping me out in building this channel. See you until the next one.